Welcome to a Light Reading 5G update. We're doing a number of these quick check-ins with analysts and influencers in the industry before the big 5G event. My name's Phil Harvey. I'm the editor at Light Reading, one of many editors at Light Reading, I should say. And today we're joined by Gabe Brown from Heavy Reading. Hello, Gabe. How are you?
Hey, Phil. Yeah, not too bad. Thanks.
Great. I wanted to talk to you about, I know you're doing a couple of panels at the big 5G event, but the thing that you're most involved in these days is Open RAN, and something you've been covering for us and also writing about. And it's a perplexing topic to me because it seems like we're edging down the road of making things way more complex, which doesn't sound like a good idea before big 5G or before 5G networks come online. And then the second part of it that scares me a little bit is I think there's all this attention going to Open RAN, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be like I have doubts that it's going to be a significant market share in the network, like it's going to be the majority of the way networks are built. Could you weigh in on either one of those? I guess first of all, maybe on the size of Open RAN, how big a market are we talking about, or how prominent is it looking now compared to what it was a few months ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's a prominent topic in terms of everyone's talking about it. It's a lot of interest. There's actually a lot of things happening, and there's progress and so forth. Got a big study, in the middle of a big study. It's going to come out in a not too distant future. In terms of the actual market share, well, yeah, it's probably, right now sub 1% of the RAN, because I'm serious, So you have to understand where it is in terms, be realistic about where it is. And next year it's going to grow, but it's still going to be a small part of the business. As we start looking out, there's various people, loads of people are doing forecasts and estimates. Omdia has a forecast. I mean, honestly, I think it's going to be, it's going to grow. It's going to take a time for it to become like a big chunk.
Yeah.
And so the other thing, when you're looking at a 3 or 5 year forecast or something, I think what we think of as Open RAN now will be something else by the time the 2023 or 25 comes along, if you see what I mean.
Oh yeah. Well, let's maybe get into that a little bit. So what's the underneath Open RAN is really just the philosophy of making the networks easier to build because you're using best of breed technology and somehow knitting it all together. Is that oversimplifying it too much, or is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think the right now, if you're going to do it, you're making your life harder. Essentially, it's a harder task to build a network with Open RAN than it is to buy in an integrated system. I don't think there's any question on that. The purpose of it really is to bring in kind of new, if you can put it this way, new technology approaches that we see work in other networking domains, and try and bring those processes, that scale, into RAN, into radio access. I have to say, there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of hype really in it at the moment. I am pretty positive on it though, and I think one of the areas I'm particularly interested in, and it's worth people keeping an ear on or an eye on, is the way that these silicon suppliers are kind of stepping in and stepping up in quite a big way. So the more you integrate into silicon, the more performance you get, the easier these systems are going to be to build. Right now, to do RAN silicon, you've got to be a top 3 player. Even the top 3 player, it's a lot of money.
Right.
So when we see across the silicon landscape, we're talking Qualcomm, Intel, Xilinx, ADI. These companies are integrating more and more, and they're actually going to have a big impact on what Open RAN really looks like, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting because the complexity is kind of near term. It seems like a lot of companies, like you said, are stepping up to do things there. It's also interesting to me because some of the newest networks are taking the Open RAN approach. So that would be Dish Network, Rakuten. There's probably 2 or 3 that I'm forgetting, but some of the ones that are the most, I guess, talked about in terms of 5G have decided to go Open RAN, and that's also created quite a bit of buzz.
Yeah, so Rakuten's pretty good, but the network they have live is an amazing feat. What they've done is an LTE, a 4G network. They're putting the touches on 5G, but it's very interesting to see that's going to be a little bit different architecture and products and things that go with it. And actually, that may be one of the first. They're the first to go live with virtual LTE, maybe one of the first to use some of these new silicon products in the network.
Okay.
Dish as well is very interesting because they're not live. They've got a few years runtime to get this product right.
They're still making vendor choices and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've locked in some of them. What I thought was really interesting about Dish, there's tons of interesting things. If it comes together and they pull it off, there's still an if there. Is the work they're doing on the radio side with I think Fujitsu's their selected vendor, but they're actually getting this what we call multi-band RU being developed. That we haven't seen in Open RAN yet. So getting it into more of a higher performance kind of product type.
What's the state, real quick, about of standalone 5G? Have we seen that showing up in the market in terms of deployment? And do you anticipate that that's going to be arriving anytime soon?
Yes, I'm doing 2 panels related to that in Big 5G. There's actually a link to Open RAN. We won't go into it now because watch the panel and you can see about that.
Right.
But yeah, so I think T-Mobile was live in the US, first in the world, driven really by their 600 frequencies. One of the panels, the GSA, like a trade group, was talking. They're expecting 8 live networks this year.
Okay.
And Verizon is on one of the panels. I don't know if this is going to come out before they do it or not, but I think Verizon's going to have some kind of a live system this year.
Yeah, we had heard they were getting pretty close, so that makes sense.
And then there's obviously some of the Chinese networks are aiming to be live. I think Telstra Australia. There's a handful.
Okay.
But really, AT&T even said they're going to have some kind of a system, but really, I think they said, and I think most of the market's going to start scaling commercially from 2021, and it's a good thing. One thing I do want to throw in, though, some recent sort of conversations. Everyone thinks it's a good thing. They're going to do it. There's lots of reasons. It's cloud native. It does fancy things, good services. Some of the operators, big operators, serious outfits are saying, yeah, we like it, but we really still have to work through what exactly the end customer benefit is. So, there's still some thinking to be done.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was just about to ask you what the market implication was going to be, because once people get a little more speed, and in some cases, in some cities and some networks, especially in the U.S., the speed differences aren't really that much, or they're not significant enough that people are really talking about it that much. There's a hell of a lot of advertising, so I assume that people will upgrade, as they upgrade their phones or whatever. But there doesn't seem to be a runaway at least consumer benefit for it yet. And I'm sure there will be on the business side. But again, if operators are still asking the question, that maybe says something about, how soon this needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of operators are marketing on speed. In reality, what applications do you have that need? You don't need it, right? It's fairly simple like that. However, as time goes on, I think for one thing, performance can improve a lot. There's a whole, like we've only just started on. There's a whole slew of things that are coming in on the RAN and the core side at the end of this year into 21. That even if you're basically what you're getting is a high-speed service, it's going to actually shift the whole network, the whole infrastructure, the whole market to 5G and standalone over. I think it's going to take many years until it becomes the sort of, we buy a new phone. That's what it does.
Yeah, it's an interesting development, but I think this is a good place to leave it, because we have to let you get back to whatever was on your phone. But we also have the Big 5G event coming up, where you have a couple of panels, and there's plenty of discussion both on from other speakers, both on Open RAN and also hearing from operators on their progress in standalone 5G. Gabe, thanks so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Hey, take it easy, Phil.